I think we all kinda already knew that the world government was corrupt. In the first few chapters, we already noticed that they were the antagonist, although at the time, we do not really know the depths of their corruption and cruelty. This is despite the fact that pirates are supposedly the antagonist in this world, because obviously, pirates are technically criminals, and yet, I don't know why, but it seems the Marines are not really enforcers of justice, it is basically just a giant organized criminal organization, primarily used to concentrate the power and authority on only a few key people or groups of people in this case. Basically, they are used to protect the rights of celestial dragons to commit unholy amounts of evil things. The main reason why I think the world government is a primarily antagonistic force, despite the fact that there are some people within the Marines itself that are good, such as Kobe, Garp, and all the members of SWORD, and even Fujitora, who is a Marine Admiral, is because of the concept of absolute justice. Absolute justice is basically the primary philosophy within the Navy. It's basically an uncompromising and extreme approach to maintaining peace and order within the One Piece world. The primary example of this is Akainu. Akainu basically represents the term absolute justice. He's the kind of person who is willing to sacrifice anything, kill anyone, use any and every trick in the book just to ensure every single pirate, regardless if they are inclined to be good, for example, like the Straw Hat Pirates, or evil, to be annihilated. This includes, for example, murdering a ship full of innocent civilians in order to ensure no scholar that can read the poneglyphs escapes the Buster Call on Ohara, or forcibly continuing the war with the Whitebeard pirates during Marineford, despite the numerous amounts of casualties within the war, and despite Ace already being killed, in the name of eradicating all of the remaining pirates in the name of absolute justice. Now, this kind of philosophy has its negatives, especially if we look at it in terms of the perspective of the Marines, primarily because of its loss of the supreme military power of Aokiji, and maybe even Kizaru, because of the parallel between their experiences. First, let's talk about Aokiji. Aokiji basically represents the antithesis to Akainu. If Akainu represents absolute justice, Aokiji is kinda like lazy justice. It basically shows a more humanistic and kinder approach to justice, which, if you have noticed, is the opposite of the cruel and authoritarian nature of the current Navy. The thing with Aokiji is that during the Enies Lobby arc, we learned that Saul was Aokiji's best friend, and Saul saved Robin's mom from being executed by the government for learning about the poneglyphs because Saul felt guilty and conflicted about the entire affair. Saul felt that executing someone for simply learning about history was fundamentally wrong and was immoral. However, absolute justice entails the culling of any forms of dissent about this matter. So, feeling like he had no choice, Saul chose to help her escape, essentially betraying the Marines. Saul landed on Ohara by some miracle and met Robin, and even befriending her. Now, obviously, we know what happens to Ohara. The Buster Call happens, Robin's mom is killed, all of the scholars and basically everyone on the island is killed due to the Buster Call. And because Saul tried to protect Robin and tried to let her escape, Aokiji is now stuck in a very heavy moral dilemma. First, he sees that Akainu killed the civilian ship that was supposed to escape the island, already putting him in a state of disbelief at the barbarity of the fact that someone could sacrifice so many innocent lives in the name of justice. Secondly, because he's still duty-bound to the Marines, he has to follow orders. Meaning, because Saul tried to protect Robin, Aokiji was forced to kill him, who was later revealed to be his best friend. These events probably led to Aokiji already having many doubts about the Marines. However, he was still hopeful because he probably believed that if he was able to somehow become Fleet Admiral, there was a chance he could change the Marines from the inside and kill the corruption from within. It's also of particular note that Sengoku, at the moment he was about to retire, vouched for Aokiji to become Fleet Admiral. However, the problem is that Akainu also wanted to be Fleet Admiral. Akainu with his philosophy of absolute justice. This led to a major conflict at Punk Hazard. Akainu and Aokiji fought for a total of 10 whole days, changing basically the entire landscape of the island, dividing it into two, one part cold and frosty, the other burning with flames. And it was at this moment that unfortunately Aokiji lost, and Akainu became the Fleet Admiral. This loss, coupled with Aokiji being already disillusioned with the world government, led to him leaving the Marines altogether and joining the Blackbeard Pirates, which is insane when I first learned about it. And now we know that he even joined forces with them to take down Garp, his former mentor. But he didn't kill him, and that's something to keep in mind. Regardless, this led to the Marines losing a powerful ally, a Marine Admiral. I assume this led to a power vacuum for a short while. However, they were able to find a replacement for Aokiji in Green Bull and Fujitora, which is an entirely different story. This loss probably hit even more deeply now that we're in an era of strife, where new pirates are popping up every day, and Cross Guild is now putting bounties on the heads of prominent Marines with their Emperor Buggy on the helm, and the new Emperor, Straw Hat Luffy of the Straw Hat Pirates, coming face to face with the five elders themselves. It's also of particular note that Kizaru is kinda going through the same thing as Aokiji, thinking he's just a cog in the machine and that he can't change anything. Facing the moral dilemma of attacking Egghead, the island he helped build, and attacking his former subordinate Sentomaru, and killing Vegapunk, his best friend. Although I'm not sure if Kizaru will eventually leave the Marines, but that's a story for another time. Anyways, the second consequence of Akainu becoming the fleet admiral and absolute justice continuing to be the prevailing ideology within the Navy is the creation of a separatist movement within the Marines that does not agree with this philosophy, and that is SWORD. SWORD is basically the antithesis of CPO, who are basically a group of superhuman assassins that is directly under the commands of the Celestial Dragons, primarily the Five Elders. SWORD also takes on dangerous missions for the world government. Missions cannot be shown or publicized to the overall population. However, the main difference between SWORD and CPO is that SWORD does not subscribe to the belief of absolute justice. They are more in line with Aokiji's form of justice that believes the end does not always justify the means. Its major members are Kobe, Halmapo, X-Drake, Prince Gross, Kudriku, and Hibri. Now, personally, I don't think these group of people are as strong as CPO currently, except for Gross and Kobe, who show a lot of potential. However, these things aren't really the main point of the video. The main point is that the creation of SWORD within the world government means that there is currently a group of people within the world government that does not agree with the way it currently is. This probably includes people like Fujitora, who has his own sense of justice within him, apologizing to the people of Dressrosa for the arrival of the dictator Doflamingo, and him not being able to do anything about it. He even protected the slaves freed by the Revolutionary Army, and helping them escape, going so far as to getting into a fight with Green Bull, another admiral. There's also Smoker and Tashigi of G5, where we can see their moral conflict about believing all pirates are evil, yet being inclined to like the Straw Hat Pirates. All of these things point to a very interesting conclusion, that due to the concept of absolute justice within the Navy, there will probably be a civil war within the Marines itself, fracturing it into two. One believes in a fair and moral form of justice, one that punishes actual evil and protects the weak and vulnerable. This is more prevalent because we know in the Egghead arc, due to Vegapunk's message, the entire world now knows the partial truth about the history of the Void Century and the truth about the world government. It is now doubting whether or not the Marines are actually representatives of justice. I mean, the more allies we have against Emu and the Five Elders, the better, because from what we have seen at Egghead, despite Luffy being immensely powerful, he was not really able to deal any significant amount of damage to the Five Elders. And even Joy Boy Saki, assumed to be the most powerful in the series, wasn't really able to do anything other than teleporting them away and pulling them out of their zone transformations. I'm not really sure why Saturn was left behind, but Emu punished him by removing his immortality and letting him age rapidly due to his allowing of Luffy to escape. He was probably blamed for the Egghead incident because Egghead was his responsibility. Absolute justice and its cruel nature led to the world government losing one of its admirals in Aokiji, and even led to the formation of a separatist movement within the Navy itself. This can lead to its eventual fragmentation, which will weaken it in the final war. So it's pretty dumb that they can't just be actual enforcers of justice, because at this point, they're just a front to ensure the power remains in the hands of the few, which are the Celestial Dragons. Anyway, like and subscribe if you liked this video, and I'll see you guys later.